Hey everybody, welcome back to Our Free TV. It is Monday, January 19th, 2026. So glad to be back with you here on the channel. I'll jump in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. Okay, so glad to be back with you here on You Are Free TV. We have an intense week kicking off here with Davos and what is Trump's attempt of America dominating Davos as we're defeating the globalist world order. As much as Carney says we're going to do a new world order out of Canada. Well, we'll see how that goes because it's a really intense week. We're going to jump in here. I always start by saying thank you so much to everybody supporting the channel, and I will plug for my great sponsor at the end. But let's just jump into the news. Oh, and I also, of course, want to say happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. It is an incredible holiday. It is something to be remembered and celebrated. The action of Martin Luther King Jr., all of his work to get the civil rights movement, to basically get people to get rid of their racial eyes. And it has been incredible in the effect that it's brought to this country, and very, very important. He was an imperfect man, but he did a lot of good. So we do celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. today. And now we jump in here with, of course, the news. And the news is Davos, hugely, with so much else besides. I will remind people that Trump has said that he's going to cap energy prices for residential, for all of us, for everybody buying energy has to use it to heat their homes, that he is going to cap those prices and put the overages onto the tech companies, the AI companies, basically saying that, you know, we can save enormous amounts of billions of dollars, basically in New England alone. That area of the country, if they would go get rid of their ridiculous renewables, and of course Trump's gone full bore against the wind energy and all of that, all the turbines, everything, the offshore wind programs, basically saying they could save $700 billion for the taxpayers of New England if they would go back to, of course, natural gas. And so very interesting there, but this capping of energy prices is really amazing. It's part of course, the energy dominance program that Trump is trying to do, saying, of course, fossil fuels are the real source of energy, and they are actually the real renewable energy sources, whereas all of these convoluted solar panels, wind turbines, etc., all of it out of the CCP, out of China, are horrific for the planet and, of course, for our getting energy to heat our homes. So very interesting there, as we're seeing in over the weekend, we had Ukraine do a massive drone strike on its own people in Russian occupied area of Ukraine, where hundreds of thousands of people are now out of power, electricity, heat, done by its own government. Because of Russia occupying those areas, of course, in the Donetsk, etc. So, you know, this is what's going on as Ukraine is waning. Zelensky will be in Davos, and maybe there will be some talks there. We're going to cover it hugely. But what we're seeing there in Davos is Trump's attempt to come in strong this year to say globalism is defeated. He's bringing in, I think, like 5 secretaries of state, secretaries of his cabinet, and Bessent, Rubio, others, Burgum, etc., to basically talk about how the USA is going to basically shut down this globalist agenda to feed off of America, that these bilateral deals and the tariffs are going to reign for what will be a new world order, but it will be one where America stops paying the bills of the world. So we're going to jump in here right now and let me get to it. Um, and of course, Greenland is huge in here. And over the weekend, we had something like 20 senators and Congress people. The rhinos out of the Senate were Tom Tillis, North Carolina. He's leaving, so he's just taking his payouts from wherever he gets them. And Lisa Murkowski out of Alaska also going over there to Denmark with multiple Congress members. We saw, Chris Coons, the Delaware Biden acolyte, paid for guy, and multiple others going to Denmark over the weekend to basically show the support for Denmark against Trump's imperialism, which is crazy and ridiculous because America has been paying the bills and paying everything for Denmark, for Greenland, and for everything for the last 80 years, but really the last 160 years, but really since obviously since World War II, where after after the U.S. came to protect Greenland, ever since has that been happening. And with NATO, what we're looking at with Davos, we're going to have Mark Rutte, the chair, the director, Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, out of the World Economic Forum, but also out of former EU commissioner. He will be there talking about how can Europe defend itself, which they know they cannot. And as Trump is moving for Greenland very strongly, and that will be hugely a part of this Davos situation, we're going to watch and see what happens, because we're also having Eric Schmidt there talking about the future of war. Alex Karp of Palantir going in. The Davos situation is basically, it's hugely all about AI. And of course, Greenland is too. So let us jump in there and see what's going on. We have this Mark Carney threat, right? This threat against the USA that he's being conditioned to do and put in place to say that, of course, the USA um, could face a Canada threat, that Canada could turn against the USA as a dominion of the UK, but also, of course, of the EU, and pushing for EU alliance with and also with China, and that this is really key because they're trying to make USA, America, into the new Russia. Okay, they're trying to make America the new enemy, which they've been, treating us as for the last 80 years, but they are wanting it to become their doctrine, where USA is the enemy, and they can't figure out a way to deal with this with Greenland because it's obviously 100% clear that Greenland is in our national interest to be able to protect it. And so let's get into it. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on with all of it. So let's get into some of it. So basically, with Greenland, and I'm going to jump into Davos very soon, but with Greenland, we get the eighth. It's basically the eighth in the world for rare earth minerals, and we know the whole fight is always about rare earths. In this AI war, in this next generation of control. And Davos has moved on from what was the lockstep programming into their hack attack programming, which is, of course, how can they defeat nations by being able to disable their digital infrastructure. And we saw it with what is it? Cyber Polygon and all of these papers out of the World Economic Forum. They've moved on to knowing that their only attempt to be able to defeat the USA will be through hack attacks, will be through attacking us digitally, because they don't have anything militarily to do so. And so let's look at it. So Trump has basically said that he is going to put these tariffs onto Europe. And this is 10% to start February 1st. Not Europe entirely, but Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, and the UK. 10% by February 1st, 25% on June 1st if they keep blocking the USA's acquisition of Greenland. And it's all very interesting because as this rolls out, what we're seeing here is that we had, as I said before, our delegation going over there as traders to stand against Trump's imperialism when Greenland very obviously has only been defended by the USA for the last 80 years. And that's, it's a no brainer that Greenland will become part of the USA, or it will become, its main alignment will be with the USA, its main ally. And so we're going to see what happens there. But we see that we have multiple things coming out about Greenland. One thing is, of course, what happened with this happened last fall, but it's really interesting. People didn't care then, but they care now. That, of course, it's come out that the Danes did a whole EU, population control thing on Greenland way back from the 1960s. From 1960 to 1991, they had done huge forced sterilization on the Greenlanders, and not only the Inuits, but also the whatever European descent people there in Greenland, where they had forced tens of thousands of women and girls to be sterilized, and basically even to the extent where they had forced implants of IUD devices into the vaginal canals of these women and girls down to the age of 12 years old, to the extent where they didn't even know they had them. And so this is coming out. The New York Post basically broke this, where where there was huge sterilization of Greenlanders by the Danish. And we also have, of course, the not of course, but disgustingly, the stealing of the children of the Inuits out of Greenland, and making them move to Denmark, placing Inuit children, basically doing a same thing here they do with our corrupt child services. There, what they did was they went and stole these children and said, the parents didn't pass these tests to prove that they were fit to be parents. They stole the children, brought them to Denmark, and for re-education. Okay, and literally this all came out at the time. The prime minister was Mette Frederiksen, and she did an apology last August about this to the Greenland people. But now so the Greenlanders seem to be actually very pro-America in this situation. The ones, of course, in official titles do not. They are, of course, dedicated to the Danes. But the Danish family, we have to remember, the Danish royals are hugely part of this black mobility. They are nobility. They are like some of the richest people in the world. The royals of Denmark. They have trillions of dollars. Okay, they are extremely wealthy people, like the Netherlands royals. Okay, and so this is a play where Trump is going against the black nobility. He's going against the royals, not just when we think of King Charles in England. This is people even wealthier than them out of the EU, who made uber trillions, okay, through the world wars, everything, and with the Rothschild banking, etc. They have made so much money, and they're being threatened by Trump. And this Greenland grab for this massive, it's basically a subcontinent. It is so huge, it is massive because, as I was saying, they are number 8 in rare earth minerals for what they have available, plus uranium, but also under the ice, okay, is said to be something like 20 to 24 times more, okay, of those minerals, etc., off the coast of Greenland. And this seems to be going fairly along with Trump, Russia, Trump, Putin, kind of behind the scenes here. We don't know fully what's going on. We did have Putin come out yesterday in a speech and say, well, America has been trying to acquire Greenland for about 160 years. And as Putin always does, giving the history, laying it down, and basically saying, this is not new and shouldn't be surprising at all. And so there is behind the scenes as Trump goes to Davos and brings all of his people there. And of course, so much of it is AI focused and is scary in that realm because none of us want that. None of us want our lives taken over by AI and AI data centers. And, when we look at Musk and Colossus 1, Colossus 2, and all of that, well, we have to understand that as we look at that with the AI data centers here, they're doing them across the world, and we're at threat for what will happen if the CCP, as Carney is now teaming up with, and the EU soon, is that we're going to look at what is the takeover, okay, or the control of AI versus America. And so Trump is going full bore into what will be the America led, what is the new order of the world. But it is not a new world order. It is America defending our our hemispheric defense, but also going against Europe for the first time in 80 years. And it is fantastic because these people are the robber barons. They are the ones, the Danish royals, the Netherlands royals, the King Charles, all of them. They are the ones with all of their money who are so behind the massive transcontinental, huge trafficking, economy of sin that is Cartel Babylon. Okay, they are the ones that are getting the most from this, whether it's Venezuela and the creation of the massive Cartel del Sols there, wherever it is across the world, these royals are the ones collecting the money. And Trump is going against them hard, and that is what is so fantastic and what we love so much about Trump. And so we have Denmark boycotting Davos. They will not be coming. Trump will be there on Wednesday. Okay, that will be the huge day. We have Marco Rubio, Scott Bessent. Scott Bessent did a very brief little presser today where he basically said we're coming here to discuss our new economic policies, and that Greenland cannot be defended by proxy out of the EU, who has no army and has no ability to defend it. And we absolutely must protect it, whether it is the Chinese Silk Road initiative that goes in through the Arctic, and that this is the new frontier, and this is where everybody's moving now, as they have nowhere else to go. And so, as we look at this, well, Denmark is boycotting Davos. We also have uh, some very exciting other things that are also happening, and maybe I'll jump here real quick and then I'll come back to Davos. But I did want to mention this because it is very exciting. We're seeing in Portugal the right populist Chega party. We're seeing Andre Ventura moving up towards the front line here for a right populist party in Portugal, being able to join Hungary, and Slovakia, and these other countries where they are finally getting a right populist party winning against the socialists in Portugal. So this runoff election that has occurred looks to put Andre Ventura in the front line. This is, of course, to replace the president Marcelo de Souza, who served for 10 years doing the bidding of the globalists. And so it's very exciting to see that Portugal is now moving towards, going up against the EU, going up against the European International. And we'll keep watching that as it unfolds. And so let's look at this with the Trump tariffs that he's threatened here, and he's putting this out as he goes to Davos for 10% on Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, UK. As I said, the EU is countering what they're calling their anti-coercion instrument. Anti-coercion instrument. It's their hardest line for going against what they see basically as being coerced by the U.S. or any other country, and they're trying to absolutely hit back against Trump with his threats, saying this could come up to about $110 billion in tariffs against the EU. I mean, against the USA, and that there could be the delaying of the vote on January 26th and 27th, which was set to be what would enable the going forward with Trump's tariffs way back in July. So here we are. It always takes 6 months, where they were supposed to vote to basically allow the removing import duties on U.S. goods into the EU per the July agreement with the U.S., and they are now saying they're going to, delay that vote indefinitely, and instead do this countermeasure of their anti-coercion instrument, the ACI, to oppose Trump regarding Greenland. And so they are desperate, and it's really interesting because when we look at this, I think the USA has offered something like $700 billion for Greenland. Okay, that's a massive amount of money, $700 billion. Think of the EU constantly, can we steal the money from Russia, from the frozen assets? We need this Ukraine, we need our Death Star, we need we need to build back Babylon better in Ukraine. We need the money. We need to fight the Russians, right? Now Carney, comes out there and is like, oh, we're all CCP. We're all good. We're just gonna, we're gonna be the new America, in the CCP realm, and maybe, maybe we don't need Ukraine so much anymore. Maybe we could just, all those people who were slaughtered and the 2 million plus who are dead, we could kind of just, walk away. And it's interesting as Trump is, offering $700 million, $700 billion, okay, to Denmark regarding Greenland, and Macron with his massive bloody right eye coming out and saying, Greenland belongs to the EU. Okay, so there's the fight, right? There's the fight. The royals, right? The royals who just this last year made the polar bear on their family crest huge, to basically against Trump with Greenland. 700 billion to them, they're probably like, But the EU is like, no. That 700 billion is coming to the EU. You are EU member. And so the interesting thing here is that 700 billion could solve all of their, create, Death Star North in Ukraine to fight their massive World War III on Russia. 700 billion would take care of that times two. And so it's interesting to see them fight that, as they know that that's not a winning strategy either. They know they can't defeat Russia no matter how much money they have. And yet, in this fight, I'm sure, going on behind the scenes between the royals and Ursula von der Leyen and what she's told to do. She'll be at Davos. She's coming. And how they can explain how they're offered all this money. It could solve their problems with their Russia problem, right? Because America's saying we have a Russia problem here with Greenland, and really it's not. Okay, really it's the CCP, and really it's just Greenland. It's just the USA having control over Greenland, for the Golden Dome and for basically doing hemispheric defense from the USA, from the rest of these satanic globalists, but also we've got them on our own end, as I said, Alex Karp, etc. over there, Palantir over there at Davos, and the AI bros and the millions of technocrats, okay, that are sitting here with greed in their eyes as they look at Greenland, because there's also something sort of proposed for Greenland that is called Freedom City, right, where they're going to build out some sort of massive digital infrastructure on Greenland. So it's not all happy talk and lovely. This is about, of course, big tech and AI going and building huge infrastructure in Greenland. All right, so you know, it's all of it. Because for me, you know, wouldn't we love to just not live in a giant AI matrix? Yes, I think we would. But this fight is going on massively, and that's what they're dealing with. And that's what they're, you know, kind of putting out there, is that the fight over Greenland, it's interesting on one end because Trump trolling Greenland, you know, the whole Greenland situation to Europe is basically his showing the world the USA pays for NATO, okay, 85%. And no matter how much money they do or don't come up with, and it's still not a lot yet, there's no way that Europe can go against the USA, or that they could deny that Greenland is absolutely, if Europe is so worried about Russia right on their border, then the USA should have full right to be expecting that Greenland should be respected as part of our immediate border, especially with the Arctic and the passages. And we get, you know, the island off Greenland on one side and the Canadian island on the other side when we go into these choke points that get into the passage into the Arctic. And of course, on the other side, we have, you know, Alaska and Russia. And so it's looking kind of obvious that America isn't too afraid of Russia, but definitely wanting to stop the CCP, but also wanting to get Europe out of our business, getting the Pilgrim Society, the City of London, the banks to control, as of course we're seeing, you know, the Fed fight coming very soon this spring, and what's going to happen there. And so it's very interesting to watch all of this roll out. Um, you know, von der Leyen out there saying the sovereignty of Greenland. You know, it's ridiculous on its face with the EU, the European countries having no sovereignty at all, and the Davos group saying today that, you know, or just basically their whole dialogue thing, you know, the spirit of dialogue is this year's Larry Fink of BlackRock's debut, that they want the spirit of dialogue. And we had Klaus Schwab out there putting out a video, who's now, it's like, what is it, the 56th year of Davos? And he was the one selected by Kissinger out of Harvard to start Davos. And he was very sad when he got a hostile takeover by Larry Fink, okay, in the Hoffman family, but Larry Fink especially out of BlackRock. And so they used, of course, what is the Klaus Schwab Foundation. That was a parallel organization, money laundering huge amounts of money out of Davos to their own family, right? And sequestering all that money away. They used that against him to oust him, okay? And that, you know, it's like all good things shall, you know, not all good, all bad things will fail eventually by people's own being hoisted by their own petard, right? So you get this situation of Klaus Schwab ousted, Larry Fink in, the head of BlackRock, just an evil man, and you know, had tried to squirrel his way into Trump's administration, wasn't able to do that, so became the head of World Economic Forum, And what is their I think this is an important thing when we're talking about Greenland. I should have talked about it long ago, but we need to understand that that whole spirit of dialogue is one thing, and the AI thing is another big thing. But we also have Blue Davos. Blue Davos is a huge theme this year, and it is about water. It is about natural, fresh water, and it's about the oceans. And they're very, very focused on controlling water. And of course, whether it's the water smart meters on our homes, and they're very, very much focused. Larry Fink himself is doing a speech on the tokenization of everything on Earth, tokenizing for the natural asset corporations to be able to monetize every living thing or inert on Earth, to be monetized for their benevolent behavior. Of course, they just want to save the planet. That's all they want to do. But really, no, they want to control where you go, what you touch, what you eat, everything. But the natural asset corporations are huge. But Blue Davos is also huge. This year of water and blue foods. Okay, the industry of fish, shellfish, seaweed, and algae, and pushing that blue food needs to be the next new thing. And this is what they do every time. Before it was no, 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 we need to eat the bugs. We need to create a bug industry. We, push the bugs. Now it is no, we need to control the seas because that's our new food industry out of the World Economic Forum. And what's really interesting here that's not being talked about much is the UN High Seas Treaty, the High Seas Treaty. And that comes into effect right now in January of 2026. And this was agreed to by all the UN players. Trump has been challenging it, getting us out of the UN. But the UN High Seas Treaty, and this gets into the Arctic, it gets into Greenland, it gets into who controls the seas, because it's not only going in there for the rare earths. They want to create, it's the 30 by 30. And today they did the what do you want to see in 2050 forum. I linked it below. You can watch it, but they all want to see just goodness and light, and basically technocratic control of human resources, so our evil humans won't destroy the earth. But basically, what's going on with this UN High Seas Treaty, what is also known as the BBNJ, the Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction Treaty, starts in effect right now in January 26. And this has everything to do with the Arctic and controlling what is the 30 by 30. Basically, that 30% of the world's oceans will be off limits to any nation to fish in, to mine in, to do extractions of oil or natural gas or rare earths or anything, because we need the blue foods. Before we needed, the roaches, we needed the crickets, we needed all that kind of food. Now we definitely need the fish, right? And so that's interesting, as I think that Japan is reopening Fukushima, their Fukushima plant, this in this next couple of weeks as well. But basically, that they want 30% of the world's oceans off limits, and of course, this is connected to the Arctic because they know that that's where the U.S. needs to go to have dominance. And this is huge and not really being mentioned. So I wanted to talk about that, the UN High Seas Treaty. I have linked it below. You can check it out for yourselves. But their whole focus on water here is huge. It's, of course, how they can regulate fresh water, how they can dominate it and monetize it. And as I said, Larry Fink is going to be doing a presentation on the tokenization of everything in the world, the one world programmable ledger that will be connected to, of course, your digital ID and passport that has your social credit score, and But the biggest thing here with the natural asset corporations is that it will make it a crime to, to fish, to do anything. Everything will be owned and tokenized, and not only that, but sensors, smart sensors across the planet, just blanketed everywhere on everything, that will alert the AI, massive infrastructure of every time a person goes into the woods and cuts a log. Okay, that's a simplistic way of saying it, but literally down to that level, where nature is fully censored and sensors attached to it, and then completely feeding back to this satellite system of total surveillance of the entire natural world, including us and inside of us, with the intra-body nano network, as we've been talking about for years. And so it's very interesting to watch all of this going on. What Besant had to say in his very short presser today at Davos, and not much happened. It was just an opening concert, and then this forum on what do you want for 2050. Tomorrow it really starts in full bore. But Besant basically said is that America first is not America alone. This is what America's leadership in the world looks like, is that we are, he didn't say this, but destroying globalism and coming in full bore to dominate Davos this year, and bring a massive contingent and basically tell Europe and the World Economic Forum contingent that America is going to fight uh, any globalist attempt to control America or control how we perform with our allies, what we do in the world. You will do bilateral agreements, and you've been put back in your place because we're not going to keep paying your bills anymore. And it's fantastic. He said that low growth is a threat to U.S. alliances, and he's talking about energy. He's talking about all the renewable, sustainable crap, and how that Europe better get back on its feet with real energy, and providing for its people, because they are basically just a drag on the world, and certainly on the USA at this point. And if they want to be part of what's coming, they have to reverse their policies, reverse their green policies on screwing everybody out of energy in their countries, and get back to providing real fossil fuel energy, and reamping their economies, because the EU is now just tanking so hard. The UK, Germany, etc., all of them, are just tanking. And so basically, Besant is saying reverse your economic destruction, and get back with the real world here, because we want to ally with countries that are going forward towards a abundance for the people in their countries, that are going to support the people of their countries, that are going to support their nationalism and the people of their countries. And this will get into immigration, etc. And on that note, we do have Peter Schweitzer coming out with a new book tomorrow, and he's fantastic. Peter Schweitzer, of course, who has written all the books about exposing whether it's Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or all of the regimes behind them, all the funding. He's coming out now with The Invisible Coup. It's just breaking. I'll be talking about it tomorrow, but the immigration war basically is at the center of it. And this is exactly what Besant is saying. You better reverse this migration calamity. Okay. And the immigration war on the EU and the USA coming out of Peter Schweitzer. So it's going to be really excellent to see what he had to say. And we will keep looking into it as it unfolds tomorrow. And so we have to look at what Trump is going up against. He will be there on Wednesday doing his speech. It's going to be epic, and I can't wait. It's going to be fantastic. But Larry Fink, literally BlackRock, had in charge of the World Economic Forum, doing his debut head here today as he wants to tokenize the entire natural planet Earth with everything living and all of our energy and every step that we make, every sip that we drink. This criminal controls $1 trillion in U.S. pension funds. Okay, he controls the lives of so many people in America. Multiple states have gotten out of BlackRock, like I think Missouri, I think Louisiana. Multiple states have sued the AGs. I think that's why Bailey, Missouri AG, made it to whatever he is now as director, co-assistant director of the FBI with Rhea, who is dodgy. But it is very interesting to see this, that we're seeing America with Larry Fink being an American in charge of BlackRock, that is only second to Vanguard in their amount of publicly known massive amounts of money in the trillions that they have. And Vanguard is more the one that basically owns BlackRock. And when you look at the royals, the Danes, and of Netherlands, and out of Brussels, and the UK, etc., they're the ones controlling Vanguard, right, on top of BlackRock. So Trump is taking on the big boys here by taking on the Danish royal family. It's huge, okay? These people are, again, black nobility. They own Cartel Babylon. They are straight up in there. And the reason they have not given any money to Greenland, I think Greenland, they give about $600 million a year to Greenland to just survive and keep pittering along, and then stealing their children and just sterilizing the women. It is because that's who they are, and it's what they believe in. And so Trump is taking on the big boys, and there's going to be a huge rollout this week. So as that progresses, we will be covering it, and we will be looking into all of it. We know that this thing with Blue Davos this year needs to be really understood, that there is a situation here with the takeover of water. We know that the Bush family owns, I think it is like the largest lake in Paraguay, like it's massive, massive, huge freshwater, like crystalline, perfect water in Paraguay that the Bush family bought way back in like the 90s, that they want to commercialize. This thing about commercializing water is just a massive threat. And this whole situation of the year of water isn't being talked about as much as the spirit of dialogue at Davos, but it is huge. The attack on water is going to be massive. And the blue foods industry, and this whole thing of the UN High Seas Treaty going into effect right now here in January of 2026. So we're going to keep watching it, and it is going to be very interesting to see how this goes down, with the threat out of the EU, with their their sort of bazooka style tariff threat against Trump's Greenland or else threats with his tariffs. Scott Bessent basically just came out and said in his presser, this retaliation would be very unwise. Okay, is what he said. And that man's a boss. I mean, whatever you want to say about Bessent, he is a boss when it comes to economic warfare. And luckily, we have him on our side. So let's see if there's anything else I want to mention here before I go. I don't think so. There's always so much to say. I could throw in lots of tidbits about lots of news, but it is I think we're going to leave it there that Davos is the name of the game today. There's so much important news. U.S. Supposedly Trump and the USA is basically saying they might give asylum to Jews from the UK. Okay, because the Islamic situation is so bad that apparently the Jews in the UK need asylum, but don't they have a country for that? It's called Israel. Um, it's just interesting that this is being mentioned, kind of out of the blue. Very interesting. We shall see what goes on there. Um, but yeah, it is. There's a lot of also very interesting smaller news, and I'm going to focus more on that tomorrow. And I know this was a little bit rambly today, but I just I think that as we look at Trump fully going towards attacking what is the globalist cartel Babylon, at its heart of the Hydra, is so important because you can't just chop off arms of the Hydra. You have to hit it in the heart to kill it, and it's not that simple. But this is a huge assault that Trump is doing in Davos, and it's not everything we wish for. Of just yay, wouldn't it be nice if life was so peaceful? No, there is the AI war. It's happening. We have the Overwatch Act, and this is very interesting as well. The Overwatch Act put out by Brian Mast, Representative Brian Mast. He's for national security, coming out and saying that we absolutely want um, any chips, especially with NVIDIA, especially the high-powered ones, dealing with AI and the AI race, that they have to go through a national security purchase and permission process, and that they would have to, that NVIDIA or other huge producers of chips would have to go through the Commerce Secretary. Right now it's Luckin. He's probably in Davos right now with Rubio. But basically, and of course, Sachs is there hugely. Sachs and the whole AI czar and all of them, all of those bros are in Davos right now. But basically, the Overwatch Act is fantastic. You'll want to support it. I've linked a cool video about it below for you to kind of understand it better. But what it is that basically that NVIDIA wants to export any of their more superpowered chips. The black, is it called the Blackwell chip or something? That's used hugely in the development of AI, machine learning, that they would have to go through the government to do so and get permission as a national security measure for whoever they were going to do these contracts with. Because NVIDIA is like close to $1 trillion in worth, I think, by next year. And what this Overwatch Act by Brian Mast that we want to support does is that they would have basically to get permission from our government for national security purposes to export these chips, and that they could be shot down if they don't meet the standards. For instance, selling them to the CCP would be stopped by the Overwatch Act. So I think that's really important and good to look at. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. I kind of felt like I didn't cover a ton of outside news and kind of rambled, but today is a huge day. It is the day where Donald Trump is taking on the globalist regime, basically saying globalism is dead. We're at a bit of a war here with Europe, and a bit of a war with the globalist royals, and how the USA is going to take back its power after World War II to regain power, basically saying we pay for everything, we're not doing it anymore. And the Canada threat with Carney and coming in allying with the CCP and all of those threats will be taken in hand. I'm 100% sure that Trump has answers for them with his team, and that as we look at all of this, we have to wonder, can we just basically break out of Cartel Babylon? Could the USA break out of their constraints? Or will we be taken up by Cartel Babylon from within? And that's where the tech bros and the AI threat comes in, and all of these moves that Trump is making. How do we stop our deep state being replaced by the big tech oligarch bros state? And that's a question we're going to have to look at going forward, because this is the precipice. We're at this place of a changeover, and that's what I'm praying on, and that's what I'm looking into, and I'm sure you are too. And I think in Davos, in the next few days, we're going to see a lot of this shift and answers coming, or clues for the direction here. So we'll stay on it here on You Are Free TV. I so appreciate you watching. I will plug my sponsor real quick. Fantastic, c60evo.com /YAFTV, code 10% off. You get the code is YAFTV for 10% off. Anybody who's ever donated to the channel gets 15% off with a different code and link sent to you. And this is the miracle molecule that gets right into your mitochondria. It goes through your blood-brain barrier into your neurons, cleaning out your brain, basically returning your cells to health. And that is the answer to health, is cellular health. And so check it out. Check it out below, and get entered into what is a giveaway. Anybody who donates qualifies into a random giveaway of what is the capsules that I love, of the olive oil. This is the MCT oil people love for workouts, but this is people buying it up by the cases for the big C, or nervous system disorders, all of it. It's such a great, fantastic company. And they also are the ones that provided the ESS60 for the Nobel Prize for everybody doing their studies. It is just an incredible lab in Houston, Texas, the best lab in the world for carbon 60. So check it out below. And, if you found something that was helpful in this video and you want to support the channel, please do so below. That would be fantastic. And please like, share, and subscribe. It sounds lame, but I'm fighting on this channel how we can fight against the the shadow banning, and I'm getting some new things that might be happening that to help with that. But this channel has been at 10.7 subscribers for like a year. I mean, it's ridiculous and not true. And so the shadow banning is real. So please subscribe, please share. And thanks so much. Please support below. You are free, and I will see you soon.